Hello, I'm Luca Dell'Anna, and today I will use three stories involving two skiers called Alice and Bob to explain some misconceptions about the optimal level of risk taking to win in business and life. Let's begin with Alice's story. She is a very talented and very aggressive skier. Because of that, she has a 20% chance of winning each race, but also 20% chance of breaking her leg in each race. The question is, how many races is she expected to win during a championship consisting of 10 races? The naive answer would be 2 races, because we think 10 races, 20% chances of winning each, and 10 times 20% makes 2. However, if we crunch the numbers, we discover that the actual number of expected wins is only 0.71. That's because if she breaks her leg in the first race, not only she loses that race, but she also loses all the following ones. This teaches us two important concepts. The first one is that it's not the fastest skier who wins the race, but the fastest one amongst those who make it to the finish line. And the second principle is that when there is a risk of game over, you cannot simply extrapolate the expected long-term returns from short-term ones. You need to take into account survival. And the longer your time horizon, the more you expect to live or to be in business, the more your outcomes will be influenced by survival rather than performance. Okay, so that was the first example. Now let's move to the second one, where we compare what happens between Alice and Bob when they race against each other. I will change slightly the numbers. Alice has a 20% chance of winning each race, as she's still very risk aggressive, but because of that, she also has a 10% chance of breaking her leg in each race. Conversely, Bob is more risk conservative, so he only has a 15% chance of winning each race, but he also has a lower risk of breaking his leg, only 1% per race. And the question is, which skier, Alice or Bob, is expected to win more races over time? The answer is tricky because it depends on how many races there are in the ski championship. For championships that are 5 races or shorter, Alice is expected to win more races. However, when the ski championship is 6 races or longer, we see that Bob's strategy yields better results. So the best strategy always depends on the time horizon. This simple concept can be tricky to implement. Put yourself into Bob's shoes. He has the best long-term strategy, but after 3 or 4 races, he might look at his strategy, compare it to Alice's, notice that she has more wins than him so far, and be tempted to switch from his good long-term strategy to Alice's strategy, which is better in the short term, but much worse over the long term. And now, let's move to the third example. So far, we have seen, in the first example, only Alice. In the second example, Alice versus Bob. And now, let's look at what happens when we have 100 Alices competing against 100 Bobs. After 10 races, the person with the most wins is likely going to be an Alice, because out of the 100 Alices, there will probably be a few who never broke their leg, and they are the ones who will be at the top. However, just after those few Alices, there will be all the other Bobs who survive most races, and at the bottom, all the other Alices. So, if we compare the average outcome for all Alices and the average outcome for all Bobs, we see that Bobs get ahead on average. So we should be very wary of survivorship bias. When we look at the single person at the top of a scoreboard, they are likely to be an Alice, someone who took a lot of risks and got lucky. Of course, they were also very skilled, but they also had some luck. That doesn't mean that if you were to imitate their strategy, you will get the same outcome. After all, only 1 in 3 Alices can survive 10 races, and only 1 in 100 can survive a 50. If you imitated the winner strategy, Alice, your most likely outcome will be a game over. So, the lesson is that if we adopt a narrow time frame, we will probably think that Alice's strategy is better, that her level of risk taking is optimal. But that would be wrong, because in the long run, we only have one life and we need to stay in business or in life for quite a few years. So for us, the best strategy is going to be Bob's. So do not imitate all winners. Only imitate those who use reproducible strategies. Strategies that, if they had to do it again, will likely yield the same outcome. Strategies that if you had to also use, you would probably be likely to have a winning outcome. So, don't be an Alice, be a Bob.